Hi, my name is Robland. I'm the president of Laguna Tools. Welcome to our newest location, just 10 minutes outside of Manhattan in New Jersey. Laguna Tools has been in business since 1982, and today we offer the most extensive line of bandsaws available in North America. I'm going to be demonstrating the intricacies of bandsaw operation on our most popular machine, the Laguna Tools 16 HD. But before I do that, let me show you some of the quality bandsaws that we offer. Our 32 comes standard with a 10 horsepower motor. LT28 standard has a 7.5 horsepower motor. All our bandsaws are made in Italy. The next machine is our LT24. All our machines have cast iron tables, cast iron fences, cast iron flywheels, steel body construction. The LT24 is the first machine that's available either single phase or three phase, both 5 horsepower. On this machine I have a power feeder attached, and I'll demonstrate that to you later. Here's our 20-inch. This machine also has a 5 horsepower motor, either single phase or three phase. The next machine I'm quite proud of. This is our Resaw Master. What is unique about this machine is we have tried to make a very large, like a 37-inch machine, into a smaller frame. This is important for people who don't have the budget and also people who don't have the space. This machine has a 5 horsepower motor, single or three phase. It has a 2-inch wide blade, and this is important because it means that you can push the lumber faster through the saw without blade deflection. It has 16 inches under the guides. This is our 37-inch machine, tabletop version, as you can see. This machine comes with a 15 horsepower motor. Again, cast iron wheels, cast iron table and fence. On this machine I have attached another power feeder, a heavier duty one, and this is variable speed. Here's our LT18 SE, and this is our LT18, the regular LT18. The SE we developed especially for bowl turners. It has a couple of added features. We put on a bigger motor. This has a 5 horsepower motor, and we made the resaw capacity higher, 16 inches. This is important for people who want to turn big, large bowls. Also, you can't see that here. The column is a little bit heavier duty because it's higher. Our regular LT18 features 12 inches of resaw capacity, a 3 horsepower motor, of course cast iron table and cast iron flywheels. Here we have our 13-inch machine. It features cast iron table, cast iron flywheels and an aluminum fence. It has a 3/4 horsepower motor. It will accept blades from a 1/16 to 3/4 of an inch in width, and the resaw capacity here is 6 inches. The next two machines look identical, and they almost are identical too. They both have 12 inches of resaw capacity. This is our regular LT16, and this one we call the LT16 SEC. The difference between these two saws are that we have put an extra horsepower on this one. The regular one has a 1.5, the SEC has a 2.5. Another addition is we've added rack and pinion adjustment to the upper guide. This is a nice feature. And also the SEC features a foot brake. Now let us go back to the machine we just came from, the LT16 HD, which is our most popular 16-inch machine, and I'll do general bandsaw demonstrations on that. Here we are back at the LT16 HD. This is our most popular machine, and let me show you some of the features. It has 12 inches of capacity under the guides. It will accept blades from a 16th inch all the way up to 3/8 wide. It features cast iron flywheels, blade tension indicator, cast iron table, a very nice fence, can move it with one finger. Features rack and pinion adjustment of the upper guide, and also a foot brake. I think I'm ready to put on a blade now. Let's get started. So the first thing we have to do is open the machine. First we open the upper door, and here the blade guard, the lower door like this, and then we are ready. Put on the blade just like this. First we put it on the upper wheel. I have backed off both the upper and the lower guide. We'll set those later. That's it, tracks. Now we are ready to put on tension. Now there's something I have to say here about blade tension. All of our machines come with blade tension indicators, and what they show you is a certain blade width and then a certain tension. However, they do not tell you how thick that blade is, and also they don't tell you what kind of material the steel is made from, and different steel requires different blade tension. So what I use them for is I go to the tension that I like. This happens to be my favorite blade, so I know exactly what tension I like to run it at. And I do that. And then I go over here and I read. I like this at 20. So next time I put this blade on, I can go exactly back to 20, and that will be the same tension. Now there's another thing we have to do. Lock up the machine and then track the blade. Now the rule for blades is that they should track in the center of the wheel. This is a rather wide blade. It's actually a 1-inch wide blade, and on those wide blades I like to have the teeth just barely overhanging the rubber, and the reason for that is none other than it saves the rubber. So let me show you how I do that. Go to the back of the machine, and I have a handle back here. When I loosen that handle, the blade moves forward. I want it a little bit more. That's it. Now the teeth are just peeking over the edge, and that's exactly where I want it. Then I tighten that lock. It's important that the blade rides on the same spot on both the upper and the lower flywheel. Let me just check this here. This is almost perfect, but I would like to see the blade a little bit back on the lower wheel. And to do that, we have adjustment, but that's done on the back side of the machine. The lower flywheel is set from the factory. However, if you do need to make adjustments, it's quite easy. Let me explain you what's going on here. We have 5 bolts that are holding the shaft. The shaft goes through from here, through the center of the machine, and becomes the axle of the lower flywheel. We have a lock bolt here, and we have a bolt in 12 o'clock position. We have one in 6, one in 9, and one in 3. Now, let's say we want to make the blade go back on the lower flywheel. And what we have to do is we have to make the top of the lower flywheel go forward just a little bit. And the way we do that is then loosen this, loosen the 12 a little bit, loosen the 6, retighten that, then lock the nuts back like this, And then retighten this. And then we have made the blade come back just a little bit. And that's all there is to it. Now it's time to set the guides. Open the cover here. Now the rule for the guides is that they should just touch the blade, or just not touch the blade. Just be right there. The machines come standard, all of our machines come standard with European ball bearing guides. And then the back thrust bearing, I set just about a 30-second behind the blade. And here it's just barely touching the blade. And now we're ready to do the same thing on the lower guide. It almost sits good as it is. Just sit this side, put the other side, log it in, and then the back. That's it right there. That's it. Now the guides that come standard with the machines are good from blades from about 1/4 inch all the way up to 1 3/8 inches. But for very narrow blades, such as an 1/8 inch or even a 16th inch blade, we have an optional cool block kit available. The reason for this is that those blades are so narrow that they are almost all teeth, and there's almost no backing of the steel to get a hold of for the steel guides. So then we use this set. Let me show you how to attach that. This only replaces the side guides. Take off one side guide. Just like this. And then put the cool block in. That's it right here. Just like that. The good thing about the cool block is that it actually surrounds the blade. It doesn't matter whether the teeth touches the cool block a little bit, because it's not going to damage the sharpness of the blade. That's it. You can see the cool block is made from a different material, and it is not going to damage the blade. Now I'm going to show you how to tilt the table. The cast iron table is attached to the body of the machine with a very heavy cast iron trunnion. And there's one bolt going through that trunnion. Loosen that bolt, just like this. Tilt the table. Then retighten it, just like that. And now the table is tilted. The table tilts from -10 to +45 degrees. All our machines conform to the toughest European safety regulations when it comes to dust collection. The dust port on the LT16 HD is conveniently located right here. Now I want to show you how quiet the machines are. And the way I'm going to do that is simply turn the machine on and keep talking the same level and show to you how smooth, quiet, and vibration-free the machines run. This machine is not going to be a problem with your neighbor. When you have a great saw like this, you'll be choosing to make a lot of the cuts that you are now making on the table saw on the bandsaw. Why is that? The reason is a bandsaw is really a much safer cutting instrument than the table saw is. The cutting action on a bandsaw is down straight into the table. On a table saw, it's a circular movement, and the cutting action is actually toward you. Now, take a look at this piece of wood here. This is a piece of 8/4 oak. When we cut this, we don't know what the wood is going to do. Maybe it'll stay straight as we cut it. Maybe it'll open up as we cut it. Or maybe it'll close down. And it's usually when we get the pieces of wood that closes that it's a danger on the table saw, because that can come into the back teeth, pinch down, and then it gets thrown back at you. That's what we call a kickback, and that is not really a very pleasant experience at all. The kickback here The same thing is going to happen on the bandsaw. The wood is going to open or close, but the kickback is going to be down toward the table and therefore not dangerous. Remember not to have your hands close to the blade and have the guides right above the wood we are cutting. And now let's do the cut. I put on my dust mask and my safety glasses, and we are ready. Now let's talk a little bit about bandsaw blades. Laguna Tools also sells bandsaw blades, and we sell two kinds. We sell carbide tip blades, and we also sell Swedish silicone steel carbon blades. What's the rule for bandsaw selection? You should always use the widest blade possible. If you are doing a resaw cut, which is a tall cut, you should always go to the maximum blade capacity of your saw. Why is that? The reason is that the wider the blade, the more beam strength it has. When you're pushing on the blade, it's not going to deflect. If you need to make tight turns, of course you cannot use a wide blade anymore. You need to use maybe a 1/16, an 1/8 inch, or a quarter blade, or a 1/2 inch blade, depending on the tightest radius that you need to turn. Now let's talk a little bit about fence alignment and bandsaw blade drift. Each blade has a different drift, and that is why it's important that a bandsaw rib fence can be changed from side to side. The way I determine that is I make a little bit of a cut. Let me just do that right here. Turn the saw on. Pushing the wood against the rib fence. Couple of inches, that's all I need. Now I take a look at this cut. And what I have to do is have to make sure that the blade stays in the center of the slot that I have just cut. I'm looking at the back of the blade over here, and I can see that there is an air gap between the blade and the wood on both sides. If that was not the case, then I would have to align the fence to be exactly in the center of the slot we've just cut. I do that alignment with these two bolts right here. Now is a good time to talk about bandsaw safety. I want to go through a few very obvious points. First of all, never have your fingers close to the blade. If your workpiece is very small, use a push stick. I've just demonstrated how quiet the machines are, but we still recommend that you wear ear protection. You must always wear safety glasses in a wood shop. And of course you should wear a dust mask and use a good efficient dust collector. Be aware of the safety hazards with loose clothing, sleeves that are hanging, and of course also long hair. Another thing to be aware of is keep your work area clean. Keep it uncluttered of other machines and wood lying around. Make sure your floor is free of dust. If your floor becomes slippery with dust, I recommend that you put a rubber mat down in front of every woodworking machine in your shop. And last but not least, whenever you are making adjustments to any woodworking machine and also to a bandsaw, that could be putting on a new blade or make an adjustment to the guide, you should unplug the machine from the power source. This is a piece of hard rock maple. Let me show you how to cut it like butter. All you need is a Laguna Tools bandsaw and a high quality blade. Now look at this. This is a piece of homemade veneer. Perfect. This is the same type of cut as I just did, this time on a piece of oak. Again, we've custom made our own veneer. Beautiful piece. The bandsaw is also an excellent scroll saw. The advantage of the bandsaw is it can cut much taller and much faster. This is a 4-inch tall cut on oak. I simply glued on our logo, piece of paper, glued it onto the wood, and I'm using that as a template. I'm cutting here with an 1/8 inch blade, and that's plenty fine to do the turns I need to do on our logo. If you put a 1/16 inch blade on, you can basically turn around itself just like you can on a scroll saw. Let me just finish the cut. Put on my mask, safety glasses, and I'm ready to go. That's it. We're ready. Cut this piece over here. That's it. Peel it off. And we have our logo in oak. Great tool for sign makers. Just a little bit of sanding and it's ready. To me, this is one of the most exciting things you can do with a bandsaw. I like to go out in the wood and collect branches, cut them up, then I make a simple jig like this, couple of pieces of plywood that I screw together and screw the log onto it, and then I put them on the bandsaw. You never know what the log is going to look like inside, and it's always so exciting to see the wood, and you can make beautiful furniture. Let me show you how I make lumber. You never know what's inside until you open it. Look at this, please. I even had no idea this is a piece of cherry. Look how beautiful the grains are. This is exciting. As I promised, this is our industrial strength power feeder. It consists of a motor over here, a feed roll over here, both on a swing arm, spring loaded, like this. The feed roller then feeds the wood through here, and the fence consists of a series of rollers, which is of course to reduce the friction. You can use the normal fence, but it does have more friction than this one. Let me show you. First put on your safety gear. As you can see, in no time you can make nice boards out of lumber. The bandsaw feeder is really a very, very big help if you do a lot of resawing. It cuts very evenly. It's a very big help. Here are our most important bandsaw accessories. First of all, here is a very heavy-duty miter gauge. This can be used on machines from 16 to 37 inch. Here we have an aluminum rib fence, and you can use this on the heavy-duty models, or you can use a cast iron fence like this. And over here we have our bandsaw blades. Our bandsaw blades are the best quality you can buy. They are made of Swedish silicone steel. And you can imagine how much it hurts for me, being Danish, to say that something from Sweden is the best thing in the world. In this case, it happens to be. Just kidding. Last, we have our mobility kit. This you can use on all our machines from 16 to 24 inches. It features a Johnson bar with 2 wheels in the front and then 2 wheels on the rear of the machine. Simply push down on this, and look how easy I can pull a 300-pound machine and position it exactly where I want. And then you simply detach the Johnson bar, and the machine is right where you want it. Thank you very much for watching. As a woodworker, I'm really proud of our line of bandsaws. Not only is it the most comprehensive line, it's also the best. In 1998, we won American Woodworker Magazine's Editor's Choice Award for the best medium-sized bandsaw. We also custom make bandsaws. Recently we have made a medium-sized saw just as this, with a very high resaw capacity for a customer who was doing foam cutting. Laguna Tools also sells other woodworking machines. We sell combination machines, jointers, planers, lathes, and other saws. For a complete listing of our products, please refer to our webpage at lagunatools.com. I look forward to doing business with you soon.
My name is Torben Helshøj, and I've been making fine furniture for well over 10 years. I'm going to introduce you to the Robland X31, the machine that will save you time, space and money while offering virtually every tool needed in woodworking. The room that I will be demonstrating the Robland X31 in is approximately 15 feet wide by 12 feet deep. It would be completely impossible to have a quality shop in such a small area without having a combination machine. The Robland X31 has 3 motors. Each motor is 3 horsepower, 220 volts, single phase. All work surfaces are cast iron. The machine weighs approximately 1,000 pounds. The Robland X31 can perform these 5 basic woodworking functions. It's a table saw with a sliding table, 12-inch jointer, 12-inch planer, mortiser, and a shaper with a cast iron fence system and sliding table. To select the motor you want to turn on, you use this motor selector switch. The table saw, the jointer and planer, the shaper, and the mortiser. The mortiser and the jointer is the same motor, it is just reverse rotation. The saw is raised and lowered by using this lever handle. To lock the saw blade, you simply turn the handle. The tilting mechanism has positive stop at 90 degrees and 45 degrees. Once desired angle is achieved, you lock it with this handle. The sliding table is easy to detach from the machine. You simply pull this cotter pin and slide out the table and it is out of your way. The table saw takes a standard 10-inch blade. It has a 5/8 arbor and the arbor is long enough to accommodate a 3/4-inch dado blade. The Robland has 2 rib fences. One fence is for rippings between 0 and 10 inches, and the other fence is for rippings between 10 inches and 24 inches. The powerful motor makes it easy to rip even very thick and difficult lumber. This is a piece of 2-inch thick red oak. To cut a 30-inch strip out of a sheet of plywood, which is 4x8, you simply set your fence at 18 inches to the outside of the saw blade, and then you use what is left on this side of the saw. Most sliding tables have one major drawback. The rail system is in the way when you want to rip. This is not only irritating, but this is also very dangerous. I'm right in alignment with the saw for kickback. Robland has eliminated this problem by making the whole rail system adjustable. When you want to rip, you simply push the rails forward, lock them in position with a handle in the back and a handle in front. And here I am, right where I want to stand when I rip. The miter gauge slides in a dovetail groove in the tabletop. The saw blade is adjustable to be 100% parallel with the groove in the tabletop with this screw. The short rib fence makes an excellent stop for short cuts in conjunction with the sliding table. The sliding table makes it easy to cut even very large panels, and you are in complete control of the cut. When you cut with a sliding table, you know that your cut will be square, because you have a true 90-degree angle between the fence on the sliding table and the saw blade. A cut made with a rib fence is only a parallel cut, and if your plywood is not square to start out with, your finished piece is not going to be square either. The fence on the sliding table is easy to adjust in any angle from 90 degrees to 45. It has positive stop at 90. Once desired angle is achieved, you lock the fence in position with a wing nut underneath the sliding table. Making a difficult cut like this becomes very easy with a sliding table. Now we are getting really tricky. I hope that you can see that there is no end to the possibilities that you have with a sliding table. We've turned the machine around so that you can see the jointer more clearly. The jointer on the Robland X31 is 55 inches long by 12 inches wide. The jointer uses the same cutter head as the thickness planer, and there's 3 knives in it. Both in-feed table and out-feed table are adjustable. The jointer fence is nice and big. It has positive stop for 90 degrees and also for 45 degrees. The jointer is the key tool to accurate woodworking. When you have a wide jointer like this, you can buy your wood in the rough, which is cheaper, and you have a lot more control of the quality. The jointer and the table saw uses the same fence. To move it from the jointer position, you simply loosen it from here and refasten it over here. The thickness planer on the Robland X31 has heavy-duty anti-kickback dogs, serrated steel infeed roller, 3-knife cutter head, and sandblasted steel outfeed roller. To change the knives in the cutter head is very easy. Simply loosen the little nuts, then you will see the knife pop out automatically. That is due to 2 little springs under either end of the knife. Now we can take it out and send it to the sharpener. To put the knife back in the cutter head, you simply use the supplied knife setting jig. Press it down like this and retighten the nuts. And your knife is in accurately. This is all it takes. When you change knife in your cutter head, always unplug the machine from the power source. You should also unplug the machine from the power source when you change shaper cutters, saw blades, and mortising bits. The dust chute is the same used for the jointer and planer. From this position, it collects from the jointer, and from this position, it is dust collector for the planer and also guard. The planer will accept wood 12 inches wide by 9 inches thick. Once desired thickness is achieved, you lock the table in position with this handle. This handle will engage and disengage the feeding system in the planer. It is important to have a powerful planer if you want to get your work done fast. This cut is a 1/4 inch deep, and this is a piece of red oak 6 inches wide. Note, there is no dip at the end. Even though it's such a big cut, it still leaves a very fine finish on the wood. The chuck for the mortiser will accept any bit from 0 to 5/8. Now the bit is fastened. The mortising table has positive stops on all 3 axes. Maximum height adjustment is 3.5 inches. Maximum travel from left to right is 8 inches. And maximum depth of cut is 5 inches. Let's say we want to make a mortise within these lines. This is our right stop, our left stop, and this is our height. You simply clamp the wood onto the sliding table like this. Move the table so it barely touches the bit. Turn the bit, we can see the cutting edge. Set the height. Lock that in position. Turn the bit a quarter turn. Go to the right line. Set that stop. Now the table won't go past that line. Do exactly the same in the other side. Now we only need to set the depth. The depth stop is off this bar here, and we use our tape to measure between the table and the stop. I have set it for 1 1/4 inches deep, and now we are ready to cut. The mortiser has many uses. You can use it as a horizontal boring machine, doweling, disc sanding, sliding dovetails, box joints, and much more. I find it a very fast way of making a joint to simply make 2 mortises and then use a floating tenon like this. Simply take a piece of scrap wood and round over the edges, and this is just like a gigantic dowel or a tenon. And here we have a flush joint. The total height of the shaper shaft is 5 inches. The bottom 3 inches are 1 1/4 in diameter, and the top 2 inches are 3/4 inches. Use only light-duty cutters on the top 2 inches. Heavy-duty cuts like raised panels should always be done on the bottom. To raise and lower the shaft, you use this handle. Once desired height is achieved, you lock it in position with this handle. Right next to it is another handle. That is the spindle lock that we use when we change tooling. Now let us put some tooling on the shaft. The shaper fence system is made of heavy-duty cast iron. Both in and out feet table are micro-adjustable. To attach the shaper system to the tabletop, you simply use these 2 screws. This is your hold-down clamp for your work, and this is the hold-in. The sliding table is nice to use when you are cope cutting on long pieces. Even a deep cut with a raised panel cutter is no problem for the very powerful shaper. So far we have gone through the Robland X31 as if it was 5 individual tools. But how is it to work with a combination machine? To demonstrate this, I will make an uncut sequence of how I use the machine. Let us say we've come to the end of a woodworking project, and for some reason or another we didn't like this style. There could be an ugly knot in it, or it could have a warp to it, and we cannot have a warped cabinet door. Now, to reproduce this stick, I have to use all 5 functions. For the use, I will use this piece of wood. First, I have to rough cut it to length. Then I have to make it flat and square on the jointer. Then I have to dimension it in the thickness planer. After that, I have to cut it to exact length on the saw. After that, I'll have to mortise it for the joinery. And then the last thing is I have to put the profile on with the shaper. This scene will not be edited. Because the Robland X31 is so compact, I can do these 5 jobs in less time than it would take me if I had 5 individual tools. I do not have so far to carry my lumber, and also my dust collector is always within reach. The Robland X31 is one of the most versatile woodworking machines available in the market today. Not only does it give you 5 tools in one, it also takes up very little space. With 2 simple steps, you can remove the mortiser and the sliding table. Just use the supply Allen wrench, loosen 2 nuts, then the mortising table is loose. Just pull out the cotter pin and the sliding table slides right out. Now the machine is only 44 inches wide. Then, by attaching the optional wheel system, we can roll the whole shop out of the way. Standard accessories for the Robland X31 include all tools needed to service the machine, the miter gauge, knife setting jig, saw guard, sanding disc, a book on woodworking, the owner's manual, and this videotape. Optional accessories are a larger sliding table and an overhead saw guard. The Robland X31 comes with a 1-year factory warranty covering parts and labor. Robland is by far the largest manufacturer of combined woodworking machines in the world. So far, more than 50,000 have been sold. Robland has 30 years of experience to offer with every machine sold. I hope you have enjoyed working through the Robland X31 with me. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call. I'm available at the end of a toll-free number. From all of us at Laguna Tools, thank you for watching and happy woodworking. This is the rail system for the sliding table, which is too long to fit inside of the plywood crate. As you can see, the Robland is packaged very beautifully. It is inside of a heavy-duty plywood crate, and it has 4 metal bands around it to ensure that it gets to you in perfect condition. Inside of the plywood crate, you will find that the machine is packaged in a heavy-duty plastic bag. This is done to ensure that it gets to you and a long journey across the Atlantic and to you in perfect rust-free condition. On one side of the machine you will find, bolted to the floor of the crate, the mortising table. Right next to it you will find the cast iron sliding table, also bolted to the floor of the crate. In this cardboard box you will find the cut-off fence for the sliding table and the rib fence. On the other side of the machine you will find the jointer fence and this cardboard box. Inside of this box you will find the shaper fence, saw blade, service tools, hold down clamp, and you will also find these two manuals. The first manual is a standard parts manual. This is the manual that you will be ordering spare parts from. In this manual you will see a section where every single nut and bolt has its own number, and it is very easy to see where they all go. The second manual is the assembly instruction manual. In this you will see how to assemble the machine step by step. For instance, here we have the parts that you need to assemble the mortiser. All the parts have a number, and then after that you will see where they all go. In addition to assembly instructions, there's also instruction in the second manual of how to disassemble the machine. For instance, now the machine as it comes in the crate is 44 inches wide by 55 inches long. If you need to get the machine through a 3-foot door, that is very easy. It just involves taking off this side panel. You only have to loosen 4 bolts to do that. After you've done that, the machine is 34.5 inches wide by again 55 inches long. Now if you need to get the machine even further down in size, you have to take off the jointer tables. That's also very easy to do. All you have to do is loosen 2 bolts, then the outfeed table is off, and 2 bolts here, and then the infeed table is off. Now the machine is only from here to there, which is 31.5 inches by 34.5. Now if you need to get the machine even further down in size, you have to take off the table saw and shaper top. That involves loosening 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then this whole tabletop comes off. Now after that, the machine is 31 by 24 inches, and all these instructions you will find step by step in this manual. For a person who has never done it before, it should take about 3 hours to assemble the machine. Now, that was easy, wasn't it? Well, I don't expect you to be that fast, but I can certainly do it. Now I'll show you how I have set up my shop, but first I will take off all the accessories. First I'll get rid of the shaper fence. I've made a little hook on the wall, so I always know where it is. the next thing is I'm going to use the jointer first. So I'm going to set that up. Then I'll get rid of the sliding table. And then last, the mortiser. I've also made a little hook on the wall for the mortiser, so I never have to bend down, because that's actually rather heavy. And then I have to turn the machine around. I have made myself two support tables. They're both on casters, so that I can change the shape of my shop. One, which is a rather narrow one and long, is for support on the sliding table when I'm cutting large sheets. The other one, which is also on 4 swivel and lockable casters, is a table I position here, and it's for support after I have cut pieces on the saw or after I have shaped pieces on the shaper. As a project for this video, I have chosen to make a solid oak door. The reason for this is that it's a relatively large project, and I can show you how well the machine will handle it. And also I have to use all 5 functions to make a door like this. The wood that I'll be working with is red oak, and the reason I have chosen that is that it films relatively well, and also it is really not that easy to work with. Most places will sell the lumber like this. This is called S4S, which means it's already been jointed and planed for you. If you can avoid it, don't buy it like this. The reason is that it is 99% sure not flat and straight. This is the way you should buy your lumber. This is called in the rough, and I know it's not always easy to find, but this means, because you're getting a lot more thickness, that you can joint and plane it yourself, and thereby you know that you will come out right because you did it. I'll now go through this project step by step. Now, when you make a door, the 2 toughest pieces to make are, of course, the 2 outside stiles is what they're called. And I have selected this piece of lumber to make one of my stiles. My finished width is going to be 5 inches, and this piece right here is 5.5, so I will have very little waste. I know it's tough to see on the camera, but I have selected a piece that has very straight grains. It's almost like a combed look, and that is going to be a more stable piece than if it had very wild grains. Of course, this is a matter of taste also, but the most correct piece is the one that has the combed look. It will be more stable. Now we have established a flat face and a straight edge. And I could talk for days about the jointer. The jointer is really the key tool in woodworking. That's where all the projects start. Maybe you can see here, I don't know how it shows on TV, but this is what I talked about before, the combed look. And that is what is more stable than you can see over here, the grains get more flat. This piece is not, this side of the wood is not going to be as stable as this side of the wood. But basically now, afterwards, we are ready to dimension it. Now I'm lucky here because it is very close to the width, so I don't have to go and rip it on the table saw. I can go straight and dimension it finished in the planer. And because the camera crew is so expensive, I'm not going to make all the pieces. I'm only going to do one step of each function. Now we have dimensioned all our pieces. They are exactly 1 3/4 thick and they are milled to the width that we desired. Now the next thing we have to do is cut all the rails to length. And to do that, we use the sliding table. We have our 90-degree stop here, which makes sure that the cut we are going to make is going to be square. Here is our length stop, and our rails needs to be 21 inches. So I set that at 21, and I can swivel it up. So I first cut one end, and then roll it down and cut the other end. Now we've cut all our rails to length, and the next thing we need to do is put the counter profile at the ends of the rails. And to do this, we will use the shaper. I have my shaper cutters over here. I have already set up my cutters on my shaper spindle, and I have also set up the shaper fence. But before we start, I would like to share a few little hints with you that is going to make life a lot easier. The first one is that, of course, I always, when I make a project, I carry along a couple of extra pieces. This is good in case something goes wrong or you find a default in the wood, whatever it might be. This I have cut square just before, and now I set up my shaper fence system to this piece of wood. What that does is it gives me micro adjustment, because this shaper fence is micro adjustable behind here, and that determines my depth of cut, and that makes it really easy to do my setup. Now the next hint is also a nice thing, and that is that we can still get to the saw. So while we are making our finished cut, if it's not exactly what we want, we can go back and cut it and then do it over and over again until we have exactly the cut that we want. I've already set up my machine exactly the way I want it, so I'm ready to make a cut. Clamp the wood down to the sliding table, make sure it's secure, put on my glasses, dust collector, After we've done all the cope cutting, we are ready to do our sticking, which is the profile along all the edges of the door. Now I've already changed the cutter, but changing it is very easy. You don't change the fence and you don't change the height of the spindle. All you do is put in your new cutters, and that is all. I have set up my hold down, which is a safety feature, and I've also set up the hold in. And now I'm ready to go. Now the last thing we have to do with our shaper is putting on the profiles on our raised panels. I've glued up my panels and I've already set up the shaper, and we are ready to go. Now the last piece of machine work we have left to do before we are ready to put the door together is the mortising. The way I do that in my shop is whenever I have a piece of scrap wood, I plane it to the thickness of my mortise bit and rip it to a standardized width. In this case it's 3.5 inches. And then I can just go ahead and cut off my tenons as I go, as I need them. I have already set up the machine to do the mortise for the top rail here, and my stops are set, the right and the left, and back here the depth stop, and I'm ready to go. I have throughout this video only been using the standard size sliding table, which is approximately 14 inches by 14 inches. It is nice because it is very easy to remove. But we also have a larger sliding table available. And of course it is nice to have a larger table because it will support a larger sheet of plywood. But also this table takes up more space and it is harder to remove because it simply weighs a lot more. I have throughout this video been using this dust collector, which is made by Robland, also Belgium. It's a very nice and heavy unit and it's on casters. It has a very good feature about it, which is that you can hook the hose up to the bottom of the dust collector and wheel it around, and then it will act as a vacuum cleaner. Now this is what our finished project looks like. All I need to do now is a little bit of sanding and put on some lacquer or varnish, and I have a door that looks exactly like I want it to. Of course I also need to put some hardware on and hang it, and then I'm going to be a very proud owner. Anyway, I hope that I have shown you that the Robland is very capable of handling even large projects like this, and that it is very easy to operate. Thank you very much for watching. This time I'm going to introduce you to the Robland 12-inch jointer and planer. This machine will give you two high-quality machines in the space of one. The specifications of this machine is exactly the same as the specifications of the jointer and planer of the Robland X31. All woodworking starts on the jointer. Here you have a 12-inch wide jointer, which is a true luxury, and it means that you can flatten very wide boards. Now the most important question you should ask yourself when you're dealing with a combination machine is, how fast is it to change from one function to the next? Now on this machine it is extremely fast. It only takes 4 steps. Step 1 is folding over the joiner protection guard. Step 2 is folding over the infeed table. Note that the fence is attached to the infeed table, so you don't have to take that off. That was step 2. The third step is folding over the outfeed table. And then the fourth step is folding over the dust chute that is also the planer protection guard. And now here we have our 12-inch thickness planer. The machine comes standard with a knife setting jig, which enables you to shift all 3 knives accurately in less than 2 minutes. It also comes standard with a dust chute, which in this position is the dust chute for the jointer, and when you fold it up, it becomes the dust chute for the planer. Because the in and out feed rollers are very close to the cutter head, you are able to plane very short pieces. Also, for that reason, there is very little vibration between the 2 feed rollers, which will enable you to make very fine cuts. This is a very short piece, and even though it's this short, you can still see it puts a very nice finish on the lumber. Another thing that's very important with a thickness planer is that you are able to dimension your lumber, not only on the face, but also on the edges. The Robland thickness planer has a 9 inches of max height capacity, and that means you can really dimension some very heavy and thick lumber. Now I had jointed this edge, and now I have thickness planed this to width, and I know that I have an exact width here, and I have an edge with a very nice finish on it. This is a thing that's especially important for me because I like to do laminates, and this is also where you will put a good planer to its true test. I have planed this board down to already 1/4 inch, but in order for me to be able to bend it easier, I'd like to get it down even thinner. And I'll now show you how I can do that in this machine. Now I have put the machine to the true test. This is about 1/8 inch thick now, and it's very easy to bend, and I can go ahead and make my laminates as I want. This is what really proves that you're dealing with a true, very high quality planer. Now this is what a thickness planer is all about, and as you can see, the Robland is quite capable. If you have any questions about the Robland joiner planer, please don't hesitate to give me a call.